Let me show you how you can use this technique that I'm going to show you how to create some really amazing textured designs and patterns just using one chameleon pen. So this is one of the designs from Lori's Art Garden. I love this little kitty cat. So I'm going to show you how to make the most out of just even using a single pen color. Now we do have 50 colors in the line now. You know, for starters, we have those 20 basic colors, which are the 12 colors of the color wheel, and then we added some neutrals and some grays. But now, for popular request, a lot of people wanted more skin tones, more gray tones, more flesh tones. So we do have 50 colors in total in the line, but we always like to go back with the understanding that the whole concept behind the system is because you can adjust the color tone of the ink, you can do a lot more with less. One pen can create some really amazing effects. So I'm going to start with actually the WG7. I have to apologize for the ink all over my hands. I got really busy this weekend with a lot of folks coloring, and so you're going to see a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. That means I was having fun. So I'm going to start with the brush nib on the WG7, and you could do this also with, if you have the existing cool gray, that'll work as well. And I'm going to fuse it, so I'm going to get it a little bit lighter. And I want to work on just showing you how you can get some really cool textured effects on the fur. So we kind of work a little bit outward, and I'm just going to pretend that that's kind of the light sources in the center of his head, and I'm going to color outward. And I just sort of randomly, it's a bit of a color hopping as well. I'm just sort of randomly coloring out to create some depth and texture. And as I'm coloring, you can see that it's transitioning darker and darker and darker, and just sort of getting these crazy little squiggle effects, for fur. Now, if you really want to get some great depth, and you're never sure always, did I get all the toning medium out? You can color it off to the side, but I'll tell you what my favorite technique is. Just flip on over to the bullet nib, and the bullet nib is going to give you the pure color. So remember, this is the purest base color, so go light if you don't want to. You can always smooth it over, and I'm going to show you that. So what I'm doing is I'm adding all this sort of little texture randomly in here, more fur. We do this technique on one of our videos with the bears, which looks fantastic, and they're curly fur as well. But remember, I'm still using that same one, WG7. So you can get that base texture on the bottom. And then what I suggest doing is going back with the brush nib and fusing it again. So you can put your detail on the bottom. This is a layering technique, and then you're going to fuse it, so you go back to the light, and then you're going to just smooth it. You're going to go back over top, and this is a little bit larger area, so what I'm going to do is kind of work in layers. So I'm doing this first part, and then I'm going to work to do the bottom. So I'm fusing that again on the brush nib, and I want it nice and light, and I'm going to work my way back down here. And we want to get that nice shape to the base of the face, and then just hang here for a little bit because we want a little bit of darkness in that bottom. Now you can go in later on if you say, hey, that's just not quite enough texture. The beautiful part about alcohol inks is you can layer them. So don't be afraid to go in later on. I can go back and fuse my bullet nib and work to get even more texture in here, a little bit lighter. Just keep layering it. You can go back over top with a brush nib. But this is how you can get some really interesting effects for fur, or this is fantastic for hair as well, and still keep that depth and dimension. So there's a technique for you for texturing for fur. Okay, so we covered how to get that awesome looking fur. And again, that was great. Could be using brown. Let's talk a little bit about grass. You can texture grass. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm just going to do a little area. I'm going to work little areas at a time. I'm using my YG3. I'm going to fuse this so it's kind of light because I want to create a base color. So let's go over here. We got this nice and light, so let's create a little base color in here. And if it starts to transition a little soon, I'm going to go back, I'm going to hit it because I want to keep this in the light. I'm going to keep it in the area where it's just going to be more of a mid or a light tint. So we're going to keep that there, and I'm just going to go back over top of where I was before. So that's where I'm going to keep it for the moment. So I can go in and just keep hitting this. It's just like you're watercoloring with your marker pens. I know I say that a lot, but that's just the best way I can explain it. You can use it in a back and forth motion. You can use it in a circular motion. I tend to change up the way I color things, just depends on the area that I'm coloring in. So sometimes I'm using a little downward stroke, sometimes I'm going in a side-to-side motion. It just depends on what I'm trying to achieve. So we're going to create this sort of light background effect. And don't worry if it's not completely smooth, because it doesn't matter. We're going to add texture, so texture isn't smooth to start with. So the key when you're doing this is to just try and get some coverage, keep it in a light, a lighter ink color. All right, so I think you get the basic idea. I'm just creating this basic background. We'll work it in areas. And as I'm doing that, cover a little bit extra here and here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the bullet area. I love using the bullet area, the nib, I'm going to get that a little bit darker on the edge because I do want to have an end point. And I'm going to go in and start adding some texture here. So just feel free to sort of add some grass. You know, we're going to add a little bit of texture here all over the place. Just a little bit of grass, a little bit of texture. And adding this little depth, you know, you can sort of get some pattern to it or be totally random like me. So you can see it doesn't really matter if you're not completely smooth, because that's not what texture is about. So you can add the texture like we did before, or you can add the texture after. That's up to you. But then I can go back in, remember, alcohol inks, I can layer them, and I can fuse my pen again and go back over top. So it just depends on how defined you want that texture to be. So watch what happens now when I go back over top of this. Okay, do you see how it smooths out some of that texture? It's not as edgy. If you want it more edgy, you can go back in again and get even more edgy. So actually adding the multiple layers of coloring with the brush, coloring with the nib, fusing it, not fusing it, gives you all sorts of interesting effects. And the whole idea is you can just sort of play with it and get really some unique textured effects, because you have that ability, you have that option, and that's always nice to have. It's nice to have the option of being able to adjust the color tone of your ink. No other marker pen allows you to do that. Did I mention we won the Red Dot Design Award? It's fantastic. And then back in here and add more texture. Now, it really boggles the mind when you think about the fact that this was actually done with just one pen. And there's some ideas on how you can do grass. Now, certainly you can extend the grass past if you want, but think about that. That could be for foliage. A lot of times you'll see people doing bushes, little effects of bushes where they're coloring and they're using, you know, 4 or 5 different shades of green. I used one shade of green. Certainly if I used this and maybe my GR4 and I used just those 2 colors going up and down the color scale, I would get an immensely different effect. But it would have even more texture and dimension to it. But that was just one pen. Do more with less. So let me just quickly show you one other idea. Okay, I know I said one other idea, but I really want to show you the strawberry because I have way too much fun with those. But for the strawberry, I want to show you just, this is a very, you know, a very basic thing that you want to be able to have your pips darker, little seeds, darker than you want to have your strawberry itself. So I'm just going to fuse the pen real quick. I'm going to pretend the highlight's in the center there and kind of go from 2 different directions. You'll take a little bit more care when you're doing this, of course, at home, but I'm just going to do this quickly so you get the idea. Okay, then just go back in and using the same pen, you can add some of that detail to it as well. So that's another way of doing it. But a real fun one, if you want to get really funky, is to start adding your own details. So Lori's done a great job of adding some fun little whimsical shapes and stuff, but you can take it to the next level. That's where it gets kind of neat. So I'm using the PK4, and I'm just going to test that off to the side. And I'm going to keep this in the light zone, so I'm going to kind of only do 1 petal at a time. Give it a couple second fuse for each petal, test it off to the side. And I just want to keep that lighter hint of pink. take a little bit more care and time when you're doing this at home, but I'm just giving you a basic idea here on how to do it. So this is a really cute flower as it is. And you will see there's lots of different ways to color it with tons of different colors, but I'm only going to use one pen to show you how you can do some neat effects. So of course I'm going to flip over to the bullet nib, and I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to use it on the pure color. So that's one way of doing it. So you're getting this whole tone on tone, and you don't have to worry, hey, wait a minute, is that the right family of pink? Because you don't have to worry, it is in the same family. But you know, maybe adding extra details. Maybe you want to add polka dots, little things you might want to add, little whimsical hearts, different patterns. You could add plaid patterns to things. It's really unlimited because you've got this wonderful tool where you not only have the color, the base color, you've got the lighter color, you've got all these different mid-tones in between, and you have the ability to add texture all within that same color family, so it's really got all the different tones, and that was just one PK4. So grab a pen and do some fantastic texture and neat effects with one pen blends.